In this next set of videos, we're going to upgrade a minor version of Drupal. So what this means is that we're going from, say, 7.6 to 7.7 or 7.5 to 7.8. This isn't a 7 to 8 or a 6 to 7. Those would be considered a major update. So the first thing that we need to do is figure out what version of Drupal we're running on. We can do that by going to Reports and then Status Report. And at the very top, the first line shows us what version of Drupal that we're currently on. We're on Drupal 7.7. So before we perform an upgrade, we should check out what changes were made between our version and the latest version of Drupal and see if the upgrade is really worth the effort. So we can do that by going to Drupal.org and then clicking on the Get Started with Drupal button, download Drupal 7. And then whatever, and then scroll down to the bottom and click the View All Releases. Now this will show each new release of Drupal as it comes out, along with notes about each release. So here's the 7.8 release, along with some notes. If we read here, it says, only bug fixes and small API improvements have been committed. No security fixes are included in this release. If we scroll down, we'll see the changes since 7.7. And here you see two issues, but it's also important to notice that there's a read more. And if you click this, you'll see a full list of the issues that were added to this version. So you can see that there are actually some significant changes in this version of Drupal. So this upgrade will require more testing, and it's also maybe a more worthwhile upgrade because there have been so many improvements and bug fixes. Now if we go back and we look at the Drupal 7.7 release, we'll see that there's actually just one change, which says that it's Drupal 7.6 with a fixed version string. So the upgrade from 7.6 to 7.7 was very minor, whereas the upgrade from 7.7 to 7.8 includes a lot of modifications. Once you decide you are going to do the upgrade, there's a couple different approaches that you can take. There's the recommended approach that comes with Drupal if you read through the upgrade.txt file. And then there's also a patch method, which can be very useful, but is not necessarily the official way of upgrading. So what we're going to do here is prepare for an upgrade, and then run through the upgrade process using a patch file, and then we'll run through the upgrade using a more traditional method. Now, there are two things you should do before an upgrade, every time. The first is to back up your entire site. This includes the whole code base, as well as the files and the settings.php file, and anything else that's not under version control. This means that you have a full backup that you can simply drop back in if something about the upgrade goes wonky. The second thing you should do is back up the database. That's the other part of the equation. That's where a lot of your information and configuration is stored. And once you have a pristine copy of that before the upgrade, you can again use that with a copy of the entire site and roll back everything to what it was like before the upgrade. Now you'll typically be making this upgrade inside of your local development environment. And then when you push it up to production, it will be only after doing some testing and making sure that the upgrade went smoothly. Also, you should make note of any changes that you've made to core files on your Drupal site. For example, if you modified the gitignore file or the htaccess file or the robots.txt file, any modifications should be recorded so you can re-add those if you lose them during the upgrade. Now, one advantage to using the patch process is that most of the time, you'll be able to retain the changes that you've made to any core files. Whereas the traditional method has you overriding all of the core files, which means that any changes that you've made to them will disappear.